Yes, welcome inside our CBS Sports Studios. I'm Adam Schein alongside my guy, the great Kyle Long. And Kyle, speaking of greatness, my goodness, the Buffalo Bills needed not only a win after, in my opinion, the single worst loss by any team in the 2025 season, what happened Buffalo in Miami. They needed to look great and handle adversity all at the same time. How about the way Buffalo was able to beat a really good Tampa Bay Buccaneer team with a really good coach, a really good roster, a lot of tough, physical football dudes when you look at the Buccaneers. 3 touchdowns for Sean Tucker. Baker Mayfield, obviously, can go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen. 9 lead changes, tied for the second most in a game in NFL history. Josh Allen with a virtuoso vintage performance. 6 total touchdowns, 3 in the air, 3 on the ground. That was MVP caliber from my guy, Josh Allen.
And I think it's worth noting that MVP caliber performance came right off the heels of some really terrible blunders in this game early on. Turnovers, absent-minded performances by this Bills team. But to stick it out, you mentioned it, 9 lead changes against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team who are led by Baker Mayfield, who doesn't care what stadium, what city, what league he's playing in. He's going for blood every single time. You knew it was going to be a gotta-have-it game. And I give this Bills team a tremendous amount of credit. And when I think about some of the things the Bills have done well historically, they've run the football. But as of late, they haven't been able to run the football with much success. So what do? You lean into your superhero. That's Josh Allen, and we've said it. You know, if I've said it once, I've said it a dozen times on this very desk with you. Where Josh Allen really changes the game is in the red area. When you can change the numbers for the defense, when you can put the ball in Josh Allen's hands, and now they got to cover another guy up defensively. And, oh, yeah, even if you do have the numbers right, it's Josh Allen you got to bring down. Credit to him and this Bills team for going and getting that win. And he reminds you why he's the MVP. Sometimes you forget, and then he reminds you. And today, we were reminded.
He's a special player who can do anything, including putting a squad on his back. And that, to me, is what's most impressive. And, look, we're holding the Bills to one standard this year. Did they get to the Super Bowl? That's how, ultimately, this Bills team, the season's going to be defined either a success if they make it to San Francisco for the big game, a failure if they don't. Now, they still trail New England in the division. New England had that victory in Buffalo earlier in the season. You know, you compare and contrast the schedules. It's like New England phoned the league and said, you know, Roger Goodell, here are the teams we'd like to play. And the league gave them the games, including Buffalo in New England. Bill's schedule is more difficult. Look, Kyle, I don't care. It's a short week. They have Houston, and that's a well-coached Texans team. Houston had a win at the gun against Tennessee today. Listen, I think Buffalo, they have Philadelphia. They're going to have some tough games, including in Foxborough. This Bills team, when they play like this on offense, when Josh is on this kind of heater, even with the issues alarming when it comes to the run defense, Buffalo, because of number 17 on their center, can beat anyone. Home, road, moon, doesn't matter.
You're right, but it's going to be very hard to do when you're giving up 200 yards rushing per game like the Buffalo Bills have done in the last 2 weeks. And I understand, you know, sometimes that's just the way it goes. But when you get into these playoff games, when you're playing against some of these powerhouses, they can literally keep your guy 17 on the sideline. And you better make the most of your opportunities. And what I saw today was Josh making the most of his opportunities. All great pitchers, all great quarterbacks. They have short-term memory, a little amnesia. We saw that amnesia at work today with the Buffalo Bills offensively. And when we talk about this schedule, yeah, there's 2 games remaining on the schedule that give me pause with this team. It is at New England, and we talked about New England Patriots beating them in the whiteout in Buffalo, and that was not very good for Buffalo fans and a real feel-good opportunity there for the Patriots. The other one's the Philadelphia Eagles. But sprinkled in here are the other games: Texans, Steelers, Bengals, Browns, and Jets. Usually with the Buffalo Bills, I would say those are wins. But let's take a look at just last week.
That's a great point.
The way they lost to the Miami Dolphins. Or go to their game against the Atlanta Falcons that they lost 14-24. The gimmies aren't gimmies, but they're still the same Bills. And you got to keep in mind, this team we saw today was without Keon Coleman. There was a number of guys that didn't produce the way they have. You know, a number of people caught the football, but nobody had explosive numbers. Dalton Kincaid was out of the lineup. So this was the perfect opportunity to say, Josh, to say, this is still my league, bro. Like, let me go do what I got to do.
Let me combine that point with something you said earlier, because I thought it was noteworthy. You know, I don't think there is a truly great team in the AFC. Like, the Indianapolis Colts, I think, are pretty well-rounded. I mean, Daniel Jones
They're
starting.
a good team.
They're a good team, right? The New England Patriots are not a classically great team. They have a sensational young quarterback, an outstanding coach who, to me, is the coach of the year.
Context is very key when it comes to New England.
Yes, 100%. You know, you look at Denver, you look at Kansas City, the Chargers got blasted against Jacksonville. I don't think any of those three teams, and I'm including the Chiefs, who Buffalo beat, obviously, earlier in the season, and frankly, the score didn't even indicate how lopsided that game was. Wherever they play, those teams in the playoffs, they can absolutely win those games. We'll see if Baltimore gets hot. We'll see what happens to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But even as flawed as the Bills are, there's something special about the way that they bounce back. Now, there's no margin for error. This can't be a topic on NFL on CBS YouTube, right? It needs to be now taking care of business, going out, handling success and prosperity. The Falcons game was bad. I'd argue the New England game was worse. Dolphins game was the worst loss to me by any team all year. I know Panthers, Packers, that was the worst in terms of point spread. Yeah, I mean, it was yes. So now, guess what? You look at that schedule, we could say difficult. It is in certain spots. Run the table.
Yeah.
That's my expectation for Josh Allen and the Bills.
Go run the table. But as my old coach, Matt Nagy, used to say, don't peak too soon, because this thing's all about who is at the best when their best is needed. Josh obviously was at his best when his best was needed today. But when it comes time for playoff football, is this the version of Josh Allen we're going to get? Is this the version of that offense that we're going to get? Because that's what it's going to take, Adam.
I'll tell you, when they make the Super Bowl, see this table?
We'll be here, buddy.
I'm jumping through it.